15 minutes away. We're all quiet, though, around West Michigan. We'll change a little bit for tomorrow. Some flurries and a few snow showers will be around for the day on Thursday. Temperatures, though, the big story this morning, obviously getting down into negative double-digit territory. The good news is it didn't last that long. As soon as the sun came up, boom, we were back above the 0-degree marker and got into the upper teens already by midday. A pretty nice afternoon. You get that sunshine here, folks, in mid to late February, and it's a higher sun angle. It feels a little bit better than it would have in December or January, and the cold air around the United States, it's beginning to lessen just a bit. We don't have as many single digits nor temperatures below zero at this point. There's a look around the Midwest. How about closer to home? Pick out your location. That's where you're at in the upper teens to lower 20s. High pressure is overhead. There are some splotchy areas of snow I'll get to in just a moment. Area of low pressure just to the south of Louisiana. That's going to take the bulk of that moisture up the east coast. That's where all the advisories and the warnings are with this next system. But there is an appendage of some upper level energy lifting northward, and ultimately it does appear as though it will bring us some flurries and areas of light snow for tomorrow. So more on that to come. Here's your evening planner. Mostly cloudy skies. We're dropping back into the single digits, but not nearly as cold as last night. I'll spell it out into the weekend for you. Annie and Doug, that's coming up.
All right, thank you for that, Anthony. Charges have now been issued against Nicholas Johnson in connection to the deaths of his parents in Kalamazoo County.
The 27-year-old is now facing 2 counts of open murder in the deaths of Gary and Laura Johnson. The couple was last seen on February 3rd, and then their bodies were found 9 days later in a wooded state game area just miles from their house in Portage. Up until today, Johnson was only considered a person of interest and was being held on some unrelated charges. He's expected to be formally arraigned tomorrow. Well, Michigan now ranks 9th in the country when it comes to vaccine doses administered. And in her press conference today, Governor Gretchen Whitmer said the state has hit that daily goal of 50,000 vaccinations a few times already. They want to make it more consistent. As for that new B.1.1.7 variant, today we learned that Michigan has 157 cases across 12 counties. The governor also talked about ongoing negotiations on her third executive budget worth $67 billion and her spending plan for $5 billion worth of federal COVID relief dollars. The budget features the largest investment in K-12 school funding in Michigan history and a heavy focus on infrastructure, as well as $225 million for small business and $90 million for vaccine efforts. Despite GOP lawmakers having put forth 2 proposals on how to spend that federal money, today the governor urged more cooperation.
These dollars are there for these purposes. Let's deploy them immediately. Let's invest the dollars that have been given to us. Let's invest them in us, in our state.
The governor also did not say if she would be joining President Joe Biden on his tour of Pfizer's Portage facility tomorrow. Almost 100 cases of that B.1.1.7 variant have been confirmed inside just one Ionia County prison.
Our Julie Dunmeyer spoke with the Department of Corrections about what they're doing to stop the spread.
More than 300 people have tested positive for COVID-19 at the Bellamy Creek Correctional Facility here in Ionia. They only recently started testing for the B.1.1.7 strain of the virus, and so far of the 95 samples sent to state labs, 90 of them have come back positive for the potentially more easily spread and more dangerous strain of the virus.
We had an employee test positive for the variant a week or so ago.
A week is all it took for that one positive test to grow to 90 at Bellamy Creek Correctional Facility in Ionia. 88 of those positive tests are inmates.
To try to contain it as best we can, which is incredibly difficult, obviously, in a prison, which is a congregate setting, but also on top of that, when you have this variant, which by all the scientific studies say spreads much more quickly.
But the Michigan Department of Corrections and the State Health Department says new daily testing results shows numbers are going down.
So that's why we acted very quickly.
The case count is also high at another Ionia facility, Michigan Reformatory. But Chris Gautz, the spokesperson for the MDOC, says that number isn't how it appears.
There are positive cases there, but pretty soon, I'm guessing by the end of the week, you'll see most of those numbers filter over into the step-down column.
He says there haven't been any new cases of COVID there since the end of January, and says the numbers listed likely mean busy healthcare workers inside the prison haven't evaluated inmates, which they require in order to clear them to step down from quarantine status. All in all, Gautz saying this is only the start of concerns about the new strain.
Further testing, I think, you'll see that. I'm sure you'll see things like that around the state. This is fairly new.
The Michigan Department of Corrections says they are testing for the variant at 2 other facilities right now where prisoners from Bellamy Creek were sent to. They also tell me that there are 100 tests awaiting results with the MDHHS for if they will test positive for the variant as well. The MDHHS told me earlier today that there is no evidence, however, of that community spread happening of the variant here in Ionia County. Reporting in Ionia, Julie Dunmeyer, Fox 17 News.
All right, thank you for that, Julie. And the Allegan County Medical Director says that B117 variant can infect more people with less exposure, and that's why he's encouraging people to still get tested for COVID-19. In fact, the health department is hosting the first of 3 community testing events this weekend at the county's transportation building. You don't have to bring a lab order, and you don't have to show any symptoms of the virus to get a test.
And the state is confirming another 939 COVID cases today, bringing the statewide total up to 577,203. The death toll now standing at 15,188. That's an increase of 11 since yesterday. About 518,000 Michiganders, though, have recovered from the virus. That number will be updated this weekend. And Michigan continues to make progress on administering vaccines. The MDHHS dashboard shows 72% of the state's almost 2.3 million doses have now been administered. And former Michigan House Speaker Lee Chatfield now says that as a member of the private sector, he would support amendments to the Elliott Larson Civil Rights Act.
That act protects against discrimination based on race, religion, gender, and other factors, but not sexual orientation and not gender identity. And as Speaker, Chatfield wouldn't support changes to that amendment to include those. After he left office under term limits, he was recently hired as CEO of Southwest Michigan First, a privately funded economic development company that gets some support from the city and the county of Kalamazoo. But this week, the city pulled its $10,000 in funding, citing concern over Chatfield's past reluctance to support anti-discrimination laws that would help the LGBTQ+ community. Today, Chatfield said he is following the company's policy of supporting those amendments, though. We asked him why now when he's out of public office.
The question was never for many different people on the right, let's say, or people within the religious community, was never should there be discrimination. It's what is the role of government in that decision. Now, I'm no longer in a public policy role, and I will let the politicians in Lansing and DC continue to have those debates and conversations. But as a part of Southwest Michigan First, our stance is that we support amending the Elliott Larson Civil Rights Act to include sexual orientation and gender identity.
And Chatfield said his first act as CEO this week was to update the Southwest Michigan First handbook to prohibit hiring discrimination based on gender identity or sexual orientation. No word on whether that'll convince the city to re-enter their funding. The county is reportedly also considering pulling their $75,000 in funding as well. Michigan Senator Jim Ananich seeming to call out Majority Leader Mike Shirkey on the Senate floor today.
You might remember Shirkey was seen in a video earlier this month calling the insurrection at the Capitol a hoax, even doubling down on that claim in a hot mic moment with Lieutenant Governor Gilchrist, saying that he stood by his message but regretted some of his words. Today, Jim Ananich of Flint shared a message that he says was a reminder for Senate Republicans.
The Earth is round. The moon landing is real. 9/11 happened. And on January 6th of this year, a violent insurrection against America happened, and the words, actions, and money of former President Trump fueled it. And you know dead people didn't vote.
Ananich shared that video on his Twitter account, adding, quote, "Take off the tinfoil hats, we have real work to do," end quote. So far, Shirkey has not responded. Still ahead here at 6, this weekend marks 5 years, if you can believe it, since that deadly shooting spree in Kalamazoo.
An Uber driver firing at people in the city at random. One woman lost both her son and her husband that night. How she is now honoring their memories by helping others.
Doug, another formidable weather system on the weather map. This is going to lift northeastward and really affect the East Coast, but the westward extensive, and yeah, I'll drag some flurries, a couple snow showers in here tomorrow. I'll talk about any damage, if it's going to be done in terms of accumulations. Forecast up next.
Millions of Americans are still without power tonight after that massive winter storm system brought heavy snow, strong winds, and even tornadoes to parts of the country.
That system also hit Michigan, but not quite as hard as other states. And that's why Consumers Energy is sending some of their own workers down south to help with restoration efforts. We're told nearly 50 employees left for North Carolina this morning. Consumers is also sending more than a dozen contractor crews to Richmond, Virginia as well.
We know how bitterly cold it's been here, and it's cold in the South, and they're not used to it like we are. So we're going to be out there making repairs under their supervision, and we are happy to help out and do whatever we can as these storms continue to battle the East Coast.
Meantime, DTE Energy also sending about 60 of their employees to help with power outages in parts of Kentucky, Virginia, and West Virginia.
Yeah, and it's tough because, you know, a lot of these places don't have the infrastructure to deal with this like we do. So we, of course, I know we're happy to help in whatever way we can. Meteorologist Anthony Dummel here with another check of the forecast. And Anthony, really, for us, I mean, even we were seeing temperatures that we're not entirely used to.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say that's pretty accurate. So overnight, this past night, Doug, got down to minus 12 in GR, and a lot of locations between about minus 6, minus 7, and say minus 12 or so. So yeah, it was frigid. But you know what? The good news was that we had sunshine out there today. So as soon as that sun got up even a reasonable distance on the horizon, I mean, we started to jump pretty quickly back into positive territory and topped out at 22 this afternoon. You get this sun angle in March, and it just feels a little bit better. And, of course, 22 with sun is always going to be better than 22 with clouds. It's just even better now in mid to late February versus what it would have felt like in January or December. So we've got that to look forward to. It's going to be more clouds around, though, for Thursday. There's another pretty sizable area of moisture. This was in Texas within the past 24 hours, producing more ice and snow for those folks, but not as strong of a system as its predecessor, the one that ultimately did drop 5.5 inches in Grand Rapids just a couple days ago. So right now it's quiet. We've got mostly cloudy skies. We had a fair amount of sunshine, though, for a second straight day, and that helped to erase these numbers off the board, and they're hopeful that we don't see anything like this until next winter or beyond. And if you're putting money on it, you'd say, yeah, we're not getting this low again this winter season. Now, granted, you can get cold in March, but it's going to take a lot more of an effort from the atmosphere as we're going to have these longer days and shorter nights. And it's just, you know, we're starting to get to that time of year where the further you get away from January, deeper into February, you just have more days that are reasonably, with these temperatures. So that's what we're hopeful for, and do see a couple, maybe 40-degree temperatures coming about next week. Not so, though, for tomorrow. Some flurries, a couple snow showers around. Temps recovering, though, in the 7-day. And when's our next real shot for snow? Yeah, we'll have some snow showers tomorrow, but in terms of any accumulating snow around here, there is an opportunity on Sunday. I'll have more on that coming up. 25 degrees, though, for tomorrow. So today's 22 gets tacked down by 3 degrees tomorrow. Still below the average at 34 there in that gray box left side of the screen. Friday and Saturday, we're calling 26s, and then jumping to 32 Sunday. How about 35 Monday? Flirting with, if not hitting 40 degrees Tuesday and Wednesday. So we are taking our strides in the positive direction. That is good news around here after 2 weeks of torture of cold weather and snow. Temps fall back to about 9 by 11 o'clock tonight, mostly cloudy skies. I'm not looking for any flurries until perhaps well into the overnight and into early tomorrow morning. The body of cold air has begun to kind of lessen, and all the way into Canada, you can say the same. The jet stream is going to start to become more energetic and lift a little bit further northward, such that as it comes into Western Canada over the next 7 to 10 days, it's going to start to bring in Pacific air, and that'll have an implication for us around here in the Midwest as we start to get back closer to normal and even above. High pressure is situated not overhead, but just off to our north and west, and it is kind of shunting this next system down to the south, so that is good news. We're not bringing another winter storm in here. This moisture will continue to ride off to the northeast and affect sections like, obviously Kentucky, and then getting into West Virginia, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and New York up towards Massachusetts with the next round of ice and snow for them. There is a bit of a trough of low pressure extending to the northwest of that main moisture source, and that will drag some flurries in here. tomorrow mid-morning and beyond. So some flurries and light snow will start to come in. Will they accumulate? Well, we may get a dusting, a coating up to 1/2 inch. That's on the table even here in Grand Rapids, but probably more like a dusting locally. You'll see on the time code here we are at 7, 8 o'clock as people are going to work. Yeah, there could be a few flurries, light snow showers coming into the I-94 corridor, but especially that southeastern quadrant of the viewing area and over towards the Detroit area. This is going to be fairly light stuff. We're going to be on the far western extent of this system, and you'll notice that the RPM model does bring a little bit of light snow even into Grand Rapids. I think that'll be the case, but it'll be coming down so lightly that it's really not going to have a huge impact around here. Again, then we may get a dusting or coating as we go through the day. Then overnight into Friday, as that system goes further and further away from us, the flow around it will create west and northwest winds. So by late morning, mid to late morning on Friday into the afternoon, some light lake effect snow showers. Throw down another dusting or coating, perhaps up to 1 inch, particularly along the lakeshore. Maybe some localized amounts even greater than that. But look at that, near 40. Here we go. Doug and Annie by the middle of next week.
All right, Anthony, thank you. Conservative